300-pound dudes tackling you on a frozen field, the last thing you want to do is stay out there. Believe me, the Rams players were thinking about the jacuzzi at their team hotel, that they find it laughable, but more laughable if they totally disregard the trade whatsoever. This guy has transformed the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. And you could argue the entire defense is going to be absolutely ferocious next year. But if your number one priority is to win a Super Bowl, then J.J. Watt is making a grave mistake. To ride this Chad Henne experiment for an entire game, I might need a whole bottle of Hennessy just to get through that. Guy who's won 8 division titles, who's made 5 AFC championship appearances, who's reached the Super Bowl 3 times and has won 2 Super Bowls for this organization. Aaron Rodgers has only won 1 Super Bowl with Green Bay. Drew Brees has only won 1 Super Bowl with New Orleans. There's only 13 quarterbacks in NFL history that have won multiple Super Bowls, and Big Ben is one of those individuals. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe right here on J&J Media Network, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'm Jonah Malkin with you every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Glad you could join me on a Monday morning. Some big news out of NFL rookies. They made some headlines. Even in the NBA, KG taking a shot at his former Celtic teammate, Ray Allen. I'm going to touch on that, and some big news in the tennis world with Rafael Nadal and the implications that could ensue for Novak Djokovic. But I have to start with a notable preseason game in the NFL. Again, it's just week two, but the most intriguing team throughout perhaps this entire offseason, throughout this entire NFL draft, the preseason, the San Francisco 49ers were on display again, and that means that their rookie quarterback, Trey Lance, was in action again for the second time this preseason, and he played pretty well. 8 of 14, 102 yards. Again, just the second appearance for him as he led the 49ers to a 15-10 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. And I will say, yes, he threw an interception. He did throw 2 touchdowns. So I liked the resilience from him. And I did see so much more arm strength from him than I've seen from so many other quarterbacks that we've seen. He can fling that football. He throws darts. He throws strikes. They're on the money. They're with conviction. He zips every single ball in there. And that was extremely impressive to see. But this is why I've always said the San Francisco 49ers were always the most intriguing team, because here you have a team that just 2 years ago, they reached the Super Bowl, and then their season is derailed by injury, so they get the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. And they've got this returner in Jimmy Garoppolo, and so the question is, what do you do with that 3rd pick? They obviously decided to take a quarterback, and now you pose this quarterback battle, this quarterback duel, and yet in the back of your mind, the context is, well, when our quarterback's healthy and Jimmy Garoppolo, he just led us, along with that defense, to a Super Bowl appearance. Just led us to a Super Bowl appearance not that long ago. So they've always had this ultimate dilemma, because when they've had Jimmy Garoppolo, it's fair to say that he's had a really rocky and unsteady tenure with the 49ers so far. His first year, obviously, he was traded midseason in 2017, and he goes 5-0 as the starter. Second season, in his 3rd game with the 49ers, he tears his ACL. He's done for the season. 3rd year, along with that defense, he stays healthy. He leads them to a Super Bowl appearance against the Kansas City Chiefs. Then last year, of course, sustained the high ankle injury that pretty much curtailed the majority of his season. So the question was always, okay, with this 3rd pick, are we drafting a quarterback as an insurance plan for Jimmy Garoppolo because of his injury history? Or are we drafting a quarterback to potentially replace and serve as an upgrade to help elevate our team to reach a new height that we couldn't reach with Jimmy Garoppolo? Now, to me, before the preseason even started, I was always of the mindset that Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter. He's the seasoned vet. He's the experienced player. And no matter how well Trey Lance plays, he will not take the starting job, at least for week 1. That wasn't going to happen. There would need to be some catastrophic events to take place, or Jimmy Garoppolo to really stink up the joint for that to happen, because the truth of the matter is, as well as Jimmy G has played for the 49ers in the past, and again, he has shown, listen, you can be the starting quarterback to lead a team to a Super Bowl, but naturally, when you draft a quarterback number 3 overall, the implication is that they're probably going to replace and eventually usurp the incumbent. That's normally what happens when you invest so much into such a high pick in the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft to take a quarterback. So for me, no one said that Jimmy Garoppolo was innately more talented than Trey Lance. But what we all assumed was that he had played well enough and that he was talented enough and that he had earned the job given the sustained number of years he's been there to be the starting quarterback entering week 1. That was the assumption. But I will say this. You watch the preseason game yesterday, and Jimmy G, granted, he only played 1 series, but he goes 3 for 6, 15 yards, and an interception. Now, again, the interception went off the hands of Brandon Ayuk, but the pass was a little bit too high. And to be honest, right now, Jimmy Garoppolo is basically begging Kyle Shanahan to start Trey Lance. That's essentially how he's been playing with his performances, with his bad performances this preseason. Now, I don't like to make too much of the preseason, but again, there's a difference between going through the motions, playing a more lackluster style, a little more lackadaisical, but you know that, hey, I'm still going to be the starter because I'm more talented than the backup. Well, that's not the case anymore. I mean, he was throwing picks in the joint practices versus the Chargers. He threw a pick in the actual preseason game versus the Chargers, and there's a common maxim in sports when it comes to teams that either play to win or play not to lose. And typically the most successful teams, they play to win. They like being the aggressors. It doesn't mean that you're not playing intelligently or pragmatically, but it just means you're making a concerted effort to be a little bit more aggressive and to not play timid, not play fearful and scared and constantly looking behind your back. Because the teams that don't play to win, that play not to lose, Exhibit A, the Atlanta Falcons in the 2017 Super Bowl against the Patriots, they're up 28-3. They played way too conservatively, and they blew that lead. So there are those that are more proactive, that are initiating, and those that are reactive, that are willing to wait to see what happens. And right now, the 49ers have this conundrum, because the conundrum is they've got 2 quarterbacks, but they've got 1 quarterback that's playing to win, that's playing fearless, and that's their rookie quarterback in Trey Lance. And they've got another quarterback who's the incumbent, who's quite frankly playing shaky and unconfident right now. And so that's the dilemma that they're in. Again, it'd be one thing if you say to yourself, okay, Jimmy G is playing pretty well, but Trey Lance is just blowing everyone away, so let's start him. But Jimmy G is making this decision harder and harder for Kyle Shanahan, not because both players are playing extremely well, and so Kyle Shanahan is now in this dilemma. It's because Jimmy G isn't playing very well, and he's almost begging and flirting with the idea of Kyle Shanahan inserting Trey Lance. It's almost like he's leaving him no choice. And I'm not trying to disparage Jimmy G right now, but I think he's been resting on his laurels a little bit too much, because he is on a razor thin margin right now. Yes, he is the designated starter, is what I believe. But man, I got to tell you, the way that he's playing right now, he is not solidifying that role or that confidence in the mind of Kyle Shanahan. He is testing the faith of Kyle Shanahan. He's testing the faith of the 49ers organization for all that equity that he built leading them to a Super Bowl along with the defense. This kind of invisible immunity cloak that he's been wearing right now, it is fading, and it is fading fast. That confidence is fading fast, and the more we're seeing Trey Lance play, the more upside, the more excitement we're starting to see and starting to expose more of the deficiencies perhaps with Jimmy G. And again, I understand it's just a preseason game, but the way that both of them are playing, again, it's not that both players are playing extremely well. And so for Kyle Shanahan, he'll go with the seasoned vet. No, the rookie is showing tremendous upside. And the guy who was supposed to be the stable horseman, he hasn't been playing well, like at all, in the joint practices or the preseason game. So that's extremely concerning right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Shanahan, if he sees one more atrocious game, granted it was one series in a preseason, but if he sees another atrocious series from Jimmy G in this third and final preseason game, I would not be surprised at all if he ultimately decided, you know what, let's give this rookie a chance. Let's give this rookie a chance. And speaking of giving rookies a chance, the Jets, Zach Wilson was extremely impressive on Saturday, had a nearly flawless, perfect game against the Green Bay Packers. And listen, this was at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It was not in the middle of the winter. It was just the second preseason game. And the Jets won the preseason game 23-14. I don't want to embellish anything, but I do think, given the fact that we're probably not going to be applauding the Jets winning or saying that they're going to be winning many games this year, I think that there's nothing wrong with giving them their flowers now and saying congratulations on winning a preseason game. I thought that Zach Wilson actually played extremely well. Again, 9 of 11 for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this is what was important to me. And again, I want Zach Wilson to succeed. Yes, I thought that the Jets should have drafted Justin Fields, number 2 overall. But regardless, I would love to see Zach Wilson and all these rookie quarterbacks succeed. I truly do. And I will say that the one thing that really impressed me about Zach Wilson, again, just in the preseason game, was his presence in the pocket. Granted, yes, he wasn't going up against Zadarius Smith or Preston Smith, but the poise and the calm, the composure that he had, his presence in the pocket is what really stood out to me, because this was a guy that wasn't slouching, wasn't hunched over. He was utilizing his 6'3" frame to see over the defenses. He was reading his progressions well. He was looking off defenders, especially on that first touchdown pass to Tyler Kroft. So I actually liked a lot of the things that he did. He seemed confident. He seemed poised in the pocket, which is something that's really important. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't flustered. He wasn't constantly just bombarded and overwhelmed. And that's important to see even in a, again, rookie preseason game. I was impressed on that front with Zach Wilson. I actually think that he and Corey Davis, who's been a nice acquisition, they're starting to develop a nice little connection, some good rapport between the two of them. He had 4 catches for 70 yards. I kind of like what's brewing there. They seem to have some good chemistry together. I think that can translate into the regular season. But the problem is, yes, it's true that in 6 preseason games, Zach Wilson has yet to have a 3-and-out. That's true. That is very true. And regardless of whether you're a seasoned quarterback or not, that's very impressive. Rookie, doesn't matter. That's extremely impressive. But this isn't going to be the reality for the New York Jets. Unfortunately, this will not be a realistic representation of everything for the New York Jets, because the reality is they play in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL in the AFC East. They've got the Bills, they've got the Miami Dolphins, they've got the New England Patriots, and you can essentially chalk that up to losses given the fact that they're going to be seeing these teams 6 times over the course of the NFL season. You can pretty much chalk that all up as losses. And so the reason why this is important too is because why did we even think that the New York Jets this year were going to be better? It wasn't just the fact that they drafted Zach Wilson and that he was going to show promise. And it wasn't just the fact that they drafted Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a talented offensive guard, and you pair him with Mekhi Becton, and now you fortify that offensive line a little bit. No, the reason why we thought the Jets, not that they were going to make tremendous noise, but that they would be a lot better, is because of their acquisitions on the defensive side. On the defensive side of the ball, well, here's the problem. Their biggest free agent acquisition in the offseason, Carl Lewis, their defensive end, he just ruptured his Achilles. So he's done for the season. Another key linebacker free agent that you brought in Jared Davis, well, now he sustained an ankle injury. He had to be carted off. Your backup offensive tackle and Connor McDermott suffered a knee injury, so now you have less depth at the offensive line position. He had to be carted off as well. So it was the defensive side of the ball that was where the Jets were going to make those huge strides and become a much more balanced team. That's where we expected to see improvement from this team. It was never just solely because of Zach Wilson and the offense. It was because, okay, the offense is going to be a little bit better, but they were going to be complemented and perhaps even led by that more talented defense. You still have C.J. Mosley. So as a talented linebacker. So I just think that, again, it's not just that the New York Jets were hoping to be a better team. It's that we expected them to ideally be relying on their defense to overcome the paucity of playmakers that they have on the offensive side. Because, yes, as I mentioned, it's great that they've got Elijah Vera Tucker and Mekhi Becton. Those two, the left tackle and the left guard, that left side is pretty shored up right now. That's improved greatly. And that's, I think, will benefit Zach Wilson a great deal. I think that we're seeing the connection between him and Corey Davis, the former Tennessee Titan. I think he's a really talented wide receiver at a UCF. I like him. And obviously you still have Jamison Crowder, who's been there, and you drafted the kid Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, who's talented. But right now, that's not an all-star wide receiving lineup. You got Tevin Coleman as a wide receiver. As a running back. He's a veteran, but again, no game-changing, real impact players that can elevate you substantially. So it was going to be the defense that they had to rely on. And now that they're severely crippled even more due to these injuries, there's going to be a bigger onus on Zach Wilson to have to overcome those weaknesses, to overcome that. And to be honest, I'm not sure if he'll be able to do that. I hope that he can have some success. Again, I actually really was impressed with his posture, with his poise in the pocket. And he seemed like he had some confidence and some control over everything that was happening. That's impressive to see, especially on the road at Green Bay. But it was that defense that was going to help offset what at times was an anemic offense last year. And now you sustain major injuries to all of your major offseason acquisitions. So that's just not a very positive sign moving forward if you're the New York Jets. That's personally what I think on the matter. Transitioning to basketball, this was an interesting story. This is one of those stories where you wake up on a Sunday, you're not expecting much news, and all of a sudden you just are kind of dropped this little nugget of golden information, just something to lighten the mood a little bit. So Kevin Garnett, we obviously know about his history with Ray Allen. And yesterday he posted a photo on Instagram. It was a story about the Boston Celtics out in 2011. They had 4 members of the Boston Celtics team be selected to play in the All-Star game that was actually played, ironically, in Los Angeles at Staples Center. At the time, it was the big four with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo. And Kevin Garnett posted a photo because the Celtics had initially posted a photo. He kind of reposted a photo, but he cropped out Ray Allen in his edited version of the photo on Instagram. Now, we obviously know that Ray Allen joined the Miami Heat for the 2012-2013 season after Ray Allen had spent 5 seasons with the Celtics and had reached the NBA Finals 2 times, had won an NBA title in 2008. And this was a very obviously contentious, it's been a kind of an acrimonious relationship between these two, really between all three of them and Ray Allen. And the big reason is because of the battles that the Celtics and the Heat had for so many years. And just the season prior, that was when the Heat and the Celtics had kind of an epically heated 7-game series in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's when some people thought they saw LeBron James's greatest game that he's ever played in Game 6 at TD Garden with the Celtics up 3-2. And then Ray Allen obviously comes back the year later to sign with the Miami Heat. But one of the reasons why, this is one of the reasons why old-timers and true sports purists really reminisce on the old days, and in the sports eras that preceded this current sports era that we're in, is because of the true rivalries and competitiveness that existed amongst players and amongst teams. Teams truly had disdain and real animosity for one another. The Lakers and the Celtics in the 80s, there was true disdain there. The Bulls and the Pistons in the 90s, the Bulls and the Knicks, there was visceral animus that existed between these players, between these teams. They genuinely disliked one another. But as fans, that made those matchups so much more intriguing, so much more fascinating to watch, and made them more highly anticipated games to watch and to have entertain us. But the one thing that always existed, and yes, there was mutual respect between the players, but obviously they truly disliked one another. But even with that being said, one of the reasons why we've cherished those series for so long is because we've actually known that what's existed beneath the surface of all that was a mutual respect, was an appreciation of one another's games. Perhaps the greatest rivalry in NBA history, the Lakers and the Celtics with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, those two guys grew up as competitors, adversaries, and foes their entire career, their entire life through college, then when they reached the pros. And yet, despite all that, we know that there lies a layer of true love and affection and respect for one another. Now, Kevin Garnett obviously grows up in an era of more of an old school type of mentality, playing physical, being chippy. You're not with him, you're against him. If you're not wearing the same colors and the same uniform as him, you are the enemy. He despises you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's part of the reason why Kevin Garnett had all the success that he had. That's one of the main reasons why he was a league MVP. He was a defensive player of the year. He was a 12-time all-defensive player, a 9-time all-NBA player, an NBA champion. Was because of that mindset, because he approached every game and every series with that same intensity, with that same mindset. That's one of the reasons why he was so great, is because he played with that mantra: if you're with him, you're against him. Right? You're the enemy. And so when you stepped in between those lines on the hardwood, he wanted to go at you. And it was personal with Kevin Garnett. And so the problem, though, here is that, listen, yes, the issue obviously lies with where Ray Allen chose to play. Because it wasn't just the fact that he left. We've talked about this before. where you go after you leave a team, that matters. He decided to join the Miami Heat, who had just beaten them in 7 games, who had just defeated the Boston Celtics, a team that Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, they battled together. They were on the same team. They were together. And they just reached the Eastern Conference Finals. So there's a reason why you kind of have this conspiracy going on. Well, not this conspiracy, but essentially that Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo have been conspiring against Ray Allen to shun him and banish him and view him as an outcast because of how gut-wrenching and disappointed they were that he chose to leave. It's the same argument that we've had about Kevin Durant for so many years, especially recently. It wasn't the fact that he left Oklahoma City that caused an outrage. It was who he decided to join. He decided to join a Warriors team that had just gone 73-9, that had beaten his Oklahoma City Thunder in 7 games after OKC led 3-1. Had Kevin Durant decided to go back to his hometown in Washington and play for the Wizards, maybe Westbrook might have still been disappointed, but there wouldn't be this public disapproval of what was happening. And that's the same thing with Ray Allen. So I understand why Kevin Garnett has harbored such resentment for so long towards Ray Allen. I understand the competitive side of him. He feels betrayed, and I understand why he's held this grudge against Ray Allen for so long, because he felt it was personal. Even though Ray Allen said it wasn't personal, he viewed it as a slight that, hey, you can't win with me as your running mate. And again, the one thing, though, that if you're Kevin Garnett, you need to take a step back and say, okay, you know what? I can't be petulant anymore. This has to be beneath me. It's been 9 years, and the reality is Ray Allen helped Kevin Garnett achieve the one thing that he was so desperately starving for throughout his entire career, and that was an NBA championship. Ray Allen helped deliver a championship to Kevin Garnett and the Boston Celtics. Ray Allen averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game in 6 games in the 2008 NBA Finals. He was a major contributor to that Boston Celtics title. And Kevin Garnett has Ray Allen to thank for winning him an NBA title. And at the end of the day, if you're Kevin Garnett, again, I understand your frustrations and how heartbreaking it was, how disappointing it was, how you felt blindsided by that move, by that decision. But it's time to kind of grow up. Don't be so petty. Put your differences aside and appreciate the accomplishments that you two had together. And recognize that this guy and Ray Allen was instrumental in helping me achieve the one thing that I was deprived of in Minnesota. And that was an NBA title. Because I'm telling you, the Boston Celtics would not have won that NBA title if it wasn't for Ray Allen. I'm not saying he was the best player on that Celtics team. That was Paul Pierce that season. But Ray Allen averaged 20 points a game. He was a major contributor, and he had a lot of production. He produced for the Celtics time and time again. And again, I understand that Kevin Garnett felt it was personal, but appreciate the fact that you won an NBA title together. Because at the end of the day, winning an NBA title should trump that decision. Hell, even Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant are cordial with one another, and they didn't even win an NBA title. They just made an NBA Finals. So if you're Kevin Garnett, put the pettiness aside and just appreciate what you guys all accomplished together. There's no need 9 years later when the Celtics post a picture of all 4 of you making an All-Star game in 2011 to undermine that and just say, well, the hell with Ray Allen. I'm just going to crop him out because I don't want to remember that he was a part of our team. It's actually really a shame. I understand it's personal. I understand you felt like it was a personal affront, but the guy helped you win a championship. And at the end of the day, you would be without one. You'd be deprived of a championship if it wasn't for him. So put your differences aside. Stop being childish. That's what I would say, and moody, to be honest. So another major sporting event in tennis, the U.S. Open, the final Grand Slam tournament that's played every year in Flushing Meadows in New York, is going to take place in a week and a half from right now. In fact, I'm actually going, as I've mentioned time and time again on this show, I'm going next week with my dad. We're going to the first couple days. Very excited for that. And another member of the Big Three now, and Rafael Nadal, just announced his withdrawal from the U.S. Open. Now he's the second member of the Big Three, along with Roger Federer, to not play and to miss this upcoming U.S. Open for the second straight season. Second straight season, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer aren't going to be playing in the U.S. Open. And obviously, it's for Nadal, it's because of this latest persistent foot injury that's really kind of derailed his season the last 3 or 4 months. Since that French Open, he hasn't been able to play in any tournaments because of that persisting foot injury. And so this is the second straight year, as I mentioned, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because in life, people normally get second chances. That's kind of what life is experience is the best teacher, right? In life, you fail a test in middle school, in elementary school, you get an opportunity to take a makeup test. You have another opportunity to redeem yourself. If you failed one test, you can get a passing grade on the next one. If you're driving your car and you run a red light, sure, you get cited and you get a ticket, but you get to go to traffic school and come back and continue driving. If you commit a crime or a felony, oftentimes you serve out your sentence, you're in prison, and then when your sentence is done, when you've served up your time, you're released and you get to get a second chance at being a valuable contributing member of society. In life, people get second chances oftentimes, whether you feel like they deserve it or not. As I mentioned, experience is the best teacher. People are given second chances all the time. But in sports, most athletes don't get second chances. We just saw the Olympics. For some of these Olympic athletes, they get one opportunity to compete at the Olympics, and they're never going to make it to that stage again. We see this with basketball, with the NBA finals, or for a Super Bowl in the NFL, or a Grand Slam in tennis, that when you reach that stage, it's not a given that you're going to get a second opportunity to reach that stage. Most of the time, you're not. We just saw Chris Paul. It took him 16 years in the NBA to finally reach the NBA final stage. And to be honest, I'm not sure if he's ever going to make it back to that stage. But this topic is not about lamenting Rafael Nadal's injury. Because yes, he's 36 years old, but I think he'll bounce back from this foot injury. And he's not going to retire. It's certainly a major blow to the tournament. It's a major blow selfishly for me going to the event to not be able to see him play. But this isn't about Rafael Nadal. This is about the opportunity, a rare second chance and a rare opportunity for Novak Djokovic right now. Because I don't think Novak Djokovic has ever had a more prime opportunity for a second chance at retribution, at redemption, to rectify what was a personal embarrassment and humiliation that he had to suffer last year in his ugly departure from the U.S. Open. Because last year, we obviously remember in the fourth round against Pablo Carreño Busta, he was visibly frustrated and upset after losing some points. He turns around, hits a ball right into the throat of a line judge at the U.S. Open in the fourth round, automatically disqualified. And mind you, that season in that tournament, there was no Roger and there was no Rafa. And the fact that you can fast forward a year later and find yourself in this fortuitous and serendipitous situation again that perfectly aligns the way that it did last year for Novak Djokovic, that's an opportunity that can't be wasted. Because at that time, he only had 17 Grand Slams. Only. He had 17 Grand Slams, but he was obviously chasing Federer's mark of 20. And he's been awarded now for the second straight year in this final season, in this final tournament of the tennis season, an opportunity to play a Grand Slam without Roger Federer and without Rafael Nadal and be in the exact same position, almost like deja vu, like he was last year. When the Israelites, during the Exodus, when the Israelites were fleeing and trying to depart out of Egypt, the Red Sea parted one time for them, and they took advantage of it because they knew it wasn't going to part one more time. Well, the Red Sea is now parted 2 times for Novak Djokovic in the last 2 years at the U.S. Open. And I guarantee you that now he's not going to waste that opportunity. He's not going to let this opportunity slip through his fingers. Now, again, this year, those 2 guys are missing the U.S. Open. Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal are missing the U.S. Open because of injuries. Last year it was because of COVID concerns. But he enters for the second straight year as the lone lion and the lone member of the big 3 entering a Grand Slam. And now he's got legitimately, not that he wasn't going to be favored before with Federer and with Rafael Nadal, but now that they're not even a part of the draw, part of the men's draw, he's got a legitimate opportunity to win and complete a full Grand Slam, to win all 4 major Grand Slam events in the same calendar year, to win the Australian Open, to win the French Open, to win Wimbledon, and now to win the U.S. Open. That is a legitimate Grand Slam, and he's got the opportunity now to do that as the lone lion in this tournament, in the draw. He blew his opportunity last year in the same exact situation, same exact position. Athletes don't typically get second chances in sports, but when you do, you take advantage of it. And I think that he's going to win the U.S. Open this year. I don't know if I could have said that quite as confidently if Rafael Nadal and if Roger Federer were still playing in this draw. He would obviously be favored, Djokovic, but now that those 2 guys are gone for the second straight year, he's going to exact some revenge, some personal vindication and revenge for the way that he handled last year and the manner in which he had to exit and be forced out of the U.S. Open last year. This is like the tennis gods have been basically saying, let this be the year of Novak. Let this be the year of Novak Djokovic. This is Novak Djokovic's tennis year. That's what's happening. Sure, he didn't win at the Olympics to complete a golden slam for whatever that means, but this is he can't ask for a better opportunity here. He can't ask for a better opportunity here. He's not going to get a better opportunity here at this stage in his career to surpass Federer's 20 Grand Slam mark and assert himself even further. So it's a huge blow that Rafa is not playing in this tournament. And obviously, selfishly, I'm disappointed that he and Roger Federer aren't playing since I'm going there. But you're Novak Djokovic. You are not crying today. In fact, if you are, it's tears of joy, given that those 2 guys aren't playing. Final topic of the day, ending a little bit shorter today, but I have a number of great Malkin's moments. Again, my favorite segment of every single show that I do, getting a chance to give some shout outs to different people, different athletes for impressive performances or historical moments in their careers. And there have been many from the past couple of days. And we start with the WNBA, with two-time WNBA champion Alina Del Don, who had missed 22 straight months with the Washington Mystics because she hadn't played she played her game yesterday for the first time since October of 2019. She had missed 22 months because of two surgeries that she was dealing with in her back that caused her to miss 22 months. And she came out and played for the Washington Mystics yesterday for the first time in that time span. She goes 16 points, 5 for 11, 3 rebounds in 22 minutes. And again, this is someone who's already had such a profound impact on the WNBA, on the game, and she's still young. I mean, 2017 was the end of her rookie contract. So to put things into perspective, she's in the prime of her career, and she's already a two-time WNBA champion, and she had to miss the last 2 seasons because of back surgeries, or essentially 2 seasons because of back surgeries. It's great to see her back out there. I'm happy for her that she's back to playing the game that she loves, and she showed out. She's obviously a tremendous athlete, extremely impressive, and so it's great to see that she's back out on the court for the Washington Mystics. Russell Westbrook, we obviously know he was acquired by the Lakers this offseason in a trade that sent Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and the draft rights to the number 22 pick. That was obviously Isaiah Johnson, from Kentucky. That went to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Russell Westbrook. But Russell Westbrook hadn't formally been introduced yet to some other professional teams in Los Angeles, and the Dodgers officially. It was Dodgers Day with the Lakers yesterday, so Russell Westbrook was officially introduced to the Dodgers fans and to the broader LA faithful yesterday at Dodger Stadium. He threw the first pitch at Dodger Stadium yesterday, and again, this had to have been such a surreal moment. Obviously, it'll be even more surreal when he actually plays his first game in Staples Center. But for a kid that grew up in Long Beach, California, played at Lusinger High School, played at UCLA, and then for years was the competitor against the Lakers. With OKC, they faced the Lakers. With the Houston Rockets, they faced the Lakers in the playoffs. And now to be reunited, to return back home, and for you to be the guy to throw the first pitch at Dodger Stadium, that had to have been an unbelievable moment for Russell Westbrook. I'm happy for him, happy his family gets a chance to see him play this upcoming year. So I know that had to be a special moment. Speaking of special moments, Detroit Tigers Hall of Famer Miguel Cabrera hit his 500th home run of his career yesterday. It came in the 6th inning against the Toronto Blue Jays. That actually tied the game 1-1 in the 6th inning, and the Tigers ultimately went on to win that game in the 11th inning, 5-3. He became just one of 28 players to reach that milestone, to hit over 500 home runs. In fact, he's the only Detroit Tiger to ever hit 500 home runs. Not a surprise there, and it's just such an illustrious career, a guy that's won back-to-back MVPs, and again, at 38 years old, still playing at a high level in his 19th season in the MLB, hitting 500 career home runs. And this was a guy that obviously was a very precocious baseball player. In fact, he kind of foretold his greatness in his opening game in the MLB for at the time, the Florida Mariners, or the Florida Marlins. I was confusing the Seattle Mariners and the Florida Marlins. Obviously, they're known as the Miami Marlins now. He hit a walk-off home run in that game on June 20th, 2003, and it came against the Tampa Bay Rays. So you kind of knew even at that time, this kid, Miguel Cabrera, was going to be an extremely special player. And obviously, he's backed that up tenfold. And to be a part of such an exclusive club, and the 500 home run club, is extremely impressive. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. He'll probably reach the 3,000 hit club, not this season, but next season, which was a personal goal of his. So extremely impressive. Big shout out to him And I've got two big shout outs in the Little League World Series. I don't know if people have been watching the Little League World Series, but it's obviously one of the more heartwarming types of sporting events where you get a chance to see these younger kids in the youth competing at the highest stage in a worldwide baseball tournament, essentially. And so there was a tremendous moment of unity yesterday. One of the more touching ceremonial first pitches you'll ever see in baseball history, period. And basically what happened, I apologize, I don't have the video right in front of me. I would encourage you guys to pull it up later at another time. There was about 15 players representing individual teams, and starting all the way from the outfield, they threw one pitch to one another, turned, tossed it to the next guy. Again, every single team, every single player represented with a different player, a different color, and it led to the final pitch from the mound to commence the ceremonial first pitch of the Little League World Series. And it was just such an amazing moment, such an amazing and beautiful sign of unity and togetherness, and understanding that, hey, all these teams from different backgrounds, different geographic locations coming together for a sporting event. And that's oftentimes the beautiful message that is sent in sports, is that unity that it offers, bringing together different backgrounds, different economic classes, different socioeconomic classes, different races, religions, doesn't matter. People can still unite around sports, and that was an incredible message to send. And finally, sticking with the Little League World Series, representing the state of Washington, their pitcher, a 12-year-old by the name of Eli Jones, tossed the first no-hitter at the Little League World Series since 1980, as Washington went on to beat Florida 1-0. This is a 12-year-old kid who threw a no-hitter through 6 innings. Granted, it was 6 innings, but still, nonetheless, 6 innings, throws a no-hitter at a Little League World Series game. Hasn't been done since 1980. That is absolutely sensational. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to Washington for winning that game as well. So that's all the time that I got for today. Thank you so much for joining me right here on Morning Joe every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific every Monday and Wednesday morning. Make sure to like, review, subscribe, comment. Subscribe to my YouTube page, Morning Joe with Jonah Malkin. Follow me on Twitter at morning_Joe_Jonah Malkin, or even Instagram, jmalkin97. I even have a TikTok, you guys. Follow me across all those social media platforms. But most importantly, have a great rest of your morning.